Hey guys, welcome back. Seeing the demand in the market, we all are very eager to learn Docker and implement the containerizations in our project. So, do you know what are the base things which makes the containerizations more powerful, right? So today in this video, I'll show you three those things which you'll understand completely. Why should you use the containerizations in your project? So let's see what are those three things. Consistency, isolation, and the resource utilization. So this requirement, whatever we have now, we have to keep in a Docker file. So we have to write all the requirements in a Docker file, all instructions will be written there. And once we build that Docker file, what will happen? It will create one image. Suppose the image name we give at feed-app 1.0. Now, what we can do, we can use the same image to create container in different environment. So what will happen here? If we just create, suppose here we have dev environment, test environment, pre-prod, and as well as we have prod environment, right? So what will happen? Same image we can use for dev environment, same image can be used for testing environment, for pre-prod environment, as well as for production environment. So here what will happen? You can see how the consistency is getting maintained here. That means the version whatever Java 11, standard library 1.4, 1.6, 3.7 and HTTP library 1.8. So all these requirements, those instructions will now be available on each environment. Because all these things are now bundled together into our image file. Everything will be there in the image and the same image will be deployed to create a container on different platforms. That means we are consistently, whatever requirements, whatever software requirements, the versions, we maintained the consistency here. That's the main point in container. The second one will be, so here, in case of isolations, we can see here, suppose we have one image for applications UI, right? For UI applications, and another image we have created for business logic, the backend side, and other image which is the database image. So what will happen here? We have three separate images for three different parts, right? For UI we have different, for business logic we have different, for database we have different. Now what we have to do for this particular UI, what we can do, we can create one UI container, and for business logic we can create one more business logic container. From database we'll have the DB container. Now what you can see here, all these applications, right, are isolated from each other, right? So we can just link these two automatically. It will get in container. What will happen? We have to put in a network part where this will get automatically linked. That means the UI can connect to the business logic can connect to the entire UI can connect to the database. So the entire application stack will work. Now, if you think about the regular ways, if we use the virtualizations, what we used to do in one machine, if you are keeping all your applications in one machine or one server, so all the stack, your UI, business logic, and databases, everything will be put in one server, right? So here the monolithic concept comes. But in case of containerizations, we are isolating everything. So we are putting everything in the microservices. The next one will be the resource utilizations. So we'll see how the resource gets utilized, right? Now, if you think about the virtualization, so here I have just given two comparisons between the virtualizations and the containerizations, virtual machines and the Docker. So what happens if you see this diagram clearly? It says, suppose you have a memory of 16 GB, right? 16 gigabyte. So what will happen? You have three virtual machines, VM1, VM2, and VM3. What will happen? When you create those VMs, what will happen? You have to allocate or assign those memories to the virtual machines. Suppose your application, here you can see directly we have 6 GB assigned to VM1, 4 GB assigned to VM2, and 6 GB is assigned to VM3, right? So what will happen here? Once you deploy your applications in the respective virtual machines, what will happen if you see this green color, right? So your application suppose using 4 GB of memory, right? The rest 2 GB will be left. Similarly for VM2 and VM3, right? So what will happen here? You can see the total, if you calculate here, total 9 GB of memory are getting used, but the rest of the memory are totally wasted, right? 2 GB, 1 GB and 4 GB each from the each virtual machines are totally wasted. So these problems, what we used to get it, now we can mitigate using the containerizations. Now, if you see here, we are using the Docker. In case of Docker, what will happen? The same 16 GB, right? Same 16 GB of memory. If we just allocate to 3 containers, from the 16 GB, we are allocating suppose 4 GB to 1 container, and here suppose we are allocating 3 GB, and here we are allocating 2 gigabytes. So what will happen here? These particular containers, whatever we are allocating, right? So whenever we deploy the applications will use that whatever is required for that applications to run, right? The rest of the memory, suppose we have used 4 GB, means 4 GB will be used, okay? And then if rest, whatever we have allocated, it will be totally free. So totally memory, because see, whenever you allocate, it's not exactly allocating permanently to that container. That means what will happen here, as we know, the containers are using the host machine's hardware resources. The host machine's hardware, because it is deployed, it will be running on top of your host machine, right? So it will be using all the platforms, host machine's resources, all the hardwares, whatever it is having. So it will be using the host machine's hardwares and the resources. So what will happen? The amount of memory is required for that container to use, it will use that specific memory, and the rest of the memories will be free. Suppose here it is using 4 GB, 3 GB and 2 GB, similar to the virtual machines here, what we just explained. And if you see here, suppose total 9 GB being used, but still will have the 7 GB free to be allocated to some new container. Suppose you are going to create new container, you can still go ahead and create the container, and that you can, whatever the 7 GB of memory available, that applications can use. But in case of virtual machines, it will not be possible. So you have to increase the memory. Okay. Now you can see how the resource utilizations also can be used efficiently in case of Docker or containers. So these are the 3 things you have to keep in mind whenever you are learning Docker and containers. Hope you understand clearly, right? So the consistency, isolations, and resource utilizations. For these 3 things, Docker is now becoming more popular in the market. Hope you understood clearly. If you have any doubts or any concerns, please do write me in the comment section below. I'll try to answer your queries. If you have not yet subscribed my channel, please do subscribe now so that you'll get notified when I add more videos in my channel. Thank you.